Welcome to the Circuit Magazine, the #1 source of information on protection matters, the industry-leading magazine for all security professionals who want to stay ahead of the game.
Welcome to the Circuit Podcast, and this one we've got a special episode. This is our best of, where we're going to talk about the best of 2021 as we move the podcast into season 2, which is in 2022. And one of the things we decided to do was to go back through the archives. What are we, 50 episodes now, John?
50 episodes in. Can you believe it?
That's amazing. So we're going to go back through the archives. We're going to pull the top episodes, right? 5?
5, yeah. So 10% of season 1.
Okay, so top 5 episodes. We're going to pull them together into one mega episode in order to set the stage for the new year. Hopefully you'll have some favorites there, but just in case you missed an episode, you're going to get the best of right here.
It's awesome, right? What a concept. And I think there's going to be a few surprises in here. This is this is a solid top 5. But like I say, I think there's still going to be a few surprises.
Okay, well, so speaking of surprises, I think we should let people know about the behind-the-scenes discussions that we had. So the question was, are we going to tell everybody up front what the top 5, not only what the top 5 were, but in which order, right? Or were we going to keep it a surprise? So maybe if you are a longtime Circuit Podcast listener, you already have your own internal list of what you think. But like you said, there could be a few surprises.
Yeah, you know what? I'm thinking there's even people going to be making this into a drinking game, right? If we're setting it up perfectly. Maybe we should have brought this out in time for New Year's Eve.
Well, one of the things I hate is that because I'm traveling so much, sometimes I miss some of the episodes being able to participate. And so I'm going to be really disappointed here if I'm not in any of the top 5 episodes.
Here's another thing that the listeners don't know is that you don't know also. I know.
That's correct.
I know what the 5 are in order. And so I'm going to give you one little spoiler. And that is, out of the 3 co-hosts alongside our main anchor, Pelham, one of us doesn't feature on any of the 5 podcasts.
Oh man, if that's me, I'm gonna boycott. Oh. This episode might not see the light of day.
So what do you think? You ready to jump in?
I am ready. So the one thing I do want to say though is I would like to thank everybody for supporting us, both the North American Bodyguard Association, the British Bodyguard Association, and the Circuit Magazine and its podcast. We appreciate all the support. It got us through 50 episodes of season 1, but we got some really, really exciting things planned for season 2. So stay tuned.
Yeah, well said. Well said. And if you're listening to this and if you think you've got something to offer on the podcast and you want to jump on, then drop us a line. We want to hear from you. I'm not going to read the email address out. Never get that right.
So without further ado, let's jump into the top 5 episodes of 2021.
Here we go. Okay, so starting with number 5, going through them in reverse order. First up, we've got Essential OSINT Skills for the Executive Protection Specialist. This episode was with Pete Jenkins. It came out back in October of last year. Do you remember it, Elijah?
I do. And here's what I like to say is that Pete has been a longtime contributor to the Circuit Magazine. So it's great having him on the podcast, and he definitely delivered a couple jewels. So that was a good episode.
Yeah, Pelham's line is, friend of the industry, friend of the Circuit Magazine, right? But in this case, Pete really is.
He does qualify, for sure.
Contributing to the magazine almost from day one, 13 plus years ago. So, definitely big advocate. And this was a great episode. And Sean was in this episode. So we know that's down to it's either me or you.
Oh man, this is like a death match here.
Yeah. So, okay. Without further ado, let's get into it. Let's hear from Pete.
Open source intelligence for the EP professional Is it something that everyone has to do, or is it only for a few select specialists? We're going to be talking with Pete Jenkins of ISS Training, and we're going to be looking at its applicability, not just in an academic sense, but in everyday operations. What about the people out there that know nothing about this topic, the completely uninitiated? What should they know?
I think a lot of people will Google something. They'll look at a person, but then they'll just put in their first name, their second name. And I think this is what people lack. They just go straight to Google, bang something in, hoping they're going to come out with the results. And they'll get 43 million hits when we don't want that. We want 5 or 6 hits on that subject. So it's knowing how to minimize those hits and be a bit more accurate with our research.
As long as you can work a computer or a search engine and you've got an inquisitive mind, you don't stop. As soon as one door closes, you look at another, you think outside the box. What else can I use? What other tools do I have to find that information, the information you require?
The other thing to add to that, and Sean's correct, you won't find everything on the internet about a place or about a person. So it's getting that background and then actually putting your boots on the ground and possibly corroborating that with it. A lot of people think open source is great. It will tell you everything you need to know. It doesn't. You've got to work the other half out yourself by other means. So
is it possible to be searching for open source intelligence and suddenly stumble across non-open source sources, which are perhaps not allowed? Is that a likely scenario?
Well, if you find it, I would say by virtue of that fact, it's open. But on a recent exercise we did, we had to identify the captain of a certain vessel. We found a spreadsheet in Denmark that listed all this personal private information about a lot of boat owners that own vessels in the UK, which was totally unexpected and actually probably a breach of the Data Protection Act, because this document that you could download as a spreadsheet contained a lot of personal private information from people's names, their addresses, their telephone numbers, and their email addresses, which was quite a surprise. But it was there, it was on the internet, but it was put out by another country. So yeah, you can find things that you probably shouldn't be able to.
Why do you think that today's EP professional needs this? Surely it's going to be one person in the team. Is it that everyone will be faced with needing to conduct some OSINT research at some stage? But why EP and why OSINT?
Various reasons. I mean, if you've got pressure groups or activist sites, you can monitor those for anything that might go against your principle. If you're looking at live, some areas, some towns, some cities, you can actually go on their website and you can dial into their CCTV. So you can see what the street cameras are looking at and actually get an updated view. There's various tweet maps where you could, let's say you've got an incident in, let's say, Regent's Park. You could then go onto Tweet Map or Snap Map and various other sites and actually look to see who's tweeting and who's Snapchatting from that exact site. And it may give you a heads up or some of any incidents or anything that's taking place there. It might be a march, it could be a conference and what have you. So it can give you things live. Another good example is we conducted a surveillance on 2 characters in the summer. They came from abroad on a ferry, and by monitoring their social media, we knew exactly where they were on their journey, throughout their drive on the ferry, when they got off the ferry. We also knew what vehicle they were driving, and when they attended this event, we knew exactly what we were looking for. We knew exactly what they looked like and what they were dressed in. We knew their vehicle. And when they talked to various people at this event, we were able to photograph those people that they're connected to, and then turned it back on its head and searched social media. And we actually found out the identities of all the people they were connected with at this particular event. So in conjunction with conventional surveillance, we're also using open source at the same time to back up the team, really, and gather more intelligence.
And alongside that as well, what I can find out, or the uninitiated with a little bit of training can find out, if someone's targeting you, it's pretty scary what someone can do for a 2-day course to a professional. And I think that makes you look then and think, Jesus, yes, I do need to look at my security and stop posting my things all over the place. I don't use the same username, passwords, wherever it is. And you give a bit more thought to what you're putting out there, your footprint, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. Earlier this year, we had to trace an individual, and we knew his Facebook details, his Instagram, and Snapchat. And it was quite good, really, for us, because he liked to take selfies. And we demonstrate this on the course, that this character, we had to find out where he was. And we established he was in London. And by taking the selfies, we took 5 or 6 different selfies and family photographs, established what part of London it was. And then literally, I spent 5 hours on Google Earth walking the streets, digitally walking the streets of this postcode area, looking for these 5 or 6 different properties which were in the background. And I established that 4 of them were all on the same street. And that gave us a great heads up, because over a 4-year period, he'd been photographed on that same street. So then we could go back to the client and said, this is where he is. This is what we're up to now. We know exactly that he's in London. We know he's on this street. Do you want to go further and actually locate exactly where he is? So, just purely by people putting pictures up that they think is quite innocent, they're actually telling us quite a lot of, giving us a lot of intelligence. Although it's a selfie, it's what's in the background. It's what's in the foreground and everything else. There's a simple hack to find out when somebody's birthday is with Facebook. You go onto their profile, you search within that profile for the word birthday. And then all of a sudden you've got all these people going, happy birthday, Pete, happy birthday, Pete. And it's like the whole world knows my birth date now. Not that I use it as a password or anything, but it's just one little pivot point to take us somewhere else if we're doing our searches. I think for CPOs and what have you, they should be Googling themselves, I should say, doing research on themselves. And like Sean said, finding out where they've been mentioned on the internet, whether it's a social media handle or they've been named or their photograph. Because the main reason is recruiters also carry out open source research. So if I'm recruiting for a surveillance operator or an instructor or an investigator, and I get 20, 30 CVs, what's the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to put their name into a search engine, the date of birth or the company that they've worked for, and I'm going to do a quick sift first. And if I see somebody dancing naked on a table in a pub, then they're not going to be the person, because, in the CP role, what if your principal does that? Searches one of the security team, it just backfires. So, you need to clean up your presence on the internet for the benefit of recruiters that won't dismiss you, or for the benefit of your principal that might decide to do a quick search because they're bored.
It's a great point there, Pete. If you are working in the industry, you have to sell yourself as a professional. So whatever is on your social pages, that also needs to speak that you're a professional. And I have actually seen people lose jobs as well from things that they've posted, on principals' yachts and posting, pictures of them doing whatever they're doing, and people have actually lost positions because of this. So for sure, you need to keep an eye on what you're putting out there.
Okay, that was number 5. That set the scene. Now in at number 4, and this is going to answer the other big question of which co-host doesn't feature at all in this podcast. In at number 4, it was the celebrity protection deep dive with Anton Kalajian and the one and only Elijah Shaw.
I made it.
That's right, you did.
Wow, John, you got eliminated from the island, huh?
I know. So you know what? Season 2, I'm going to up my game. I've got to get into the end of the year wrap up, right?
But I do have to say this, though. None of this is really going to be possible in terms of the Circuit Podcast hitting the airwaves without the work that you do behind the scenes.
Oh, well, thanks. You got me blushing.
I know, right? It's a sentimental moment, end of the year kind of thing. But in terms of this episode, though, this was a really good one. I enjoyed talking to Anton. He really has a ton of experience in the industry. But what I love it is that his delivery is very matter of fact. It doesn't have a lot of the fluff and the hocus pocus that, some kind of put on their exploits and what the craft is. And so I really just like the fact that he could talk about the realities of it. Of course, it's a wonderful segment of the industry speaking about celebrity protection. There's some exciting things, but there's a reality of it that if you're going to do this business, you're going to have to take it seriously. and you're going to have to put the work in. And I think he did a great job of illustrating that.
Yeah, totally. And one of the things we're joking now about me not appearing on any of these podcasts, but truly, when I'm not on, obviously it takes a lot of pressure off, and I just get to listen to it, like the rest of the listeners, and I enjoy it a lot. And in particular, this episode is one of my own personal favorites. I really enjoyed this one, and I think the fact that you were there along with Pelham to interview Anton meant it just had such a great flow. We pulled out so many gems. And as somebody, who's been in the industry a long time but never worked in celebrity protection, this was eye-opening. And I really loved the debate in here about whether or not, and I think this is kind of an unintentional conversation, but whether or not EP is easier than celebrity protection.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Maybe we should devote an entire episode about just that, and we really get some traction there.
Yeah, this needs
the views will go up, buddy.
All right, let's jump into it then. Let's hear from Anton on the subject of celebrity protection.
Celebrity protection and EP, everybody is in the public eye. We're here with Anton Kalatin, CEO and founder of Guardian Security, and we're going to be exploring this topic because obviously, even for the people not in EP, we have preconceptions about what a bodyguard is. It's evidently someone looking after a celebrity. But we know, of course, EP is much, much broader than that. But, Anton, what is wrong with the way the industry is at the moment with regards to protecting celebrities?
How long do we have on this podcast? I mean, Elijah and me, we both, been doing this for a very long time. And I think we both can agree it's just changed dramatically with the impact of social media. That's been a big thing that's been wrong with celebrity protection. I mean, the way I was taught was stay out of the frame, stay out of the public eye. Don't make it about you. You got to be now, with the social impact, everybody's a celebrity. So I think that with that, we have seen a rise of new types of Instaguards that are out there. Social media is allowing fans to become bodyguards. And, it's allowing access to clients that no one's had before. So they're a lot more accessible. And, you got a lot of people that are in it for the wrong reasons. Instead of trying to stay in the shadows or trying to really not make a name for yourself based on your artist name, let them be who they are. Don't write their coattails. Be your own man or woman. I think that's a big issue with the bodyguard world right now. Specifically
in the world of celebrity bodyguarding, what do you want the uninitiated out there to know? Even the people that think they know, but that they don't actually know.
I think in the security world in general, I think that celebrity protection gets a black eye. I think that they get a bad rap. I think they should know that as far as the security world should know how much really goes into celebrity protection. They'd be amazed. I do both. We do both here at Guardian, EP and CP, and other divisions as well. But when we walk into an EP account, I don't want to say it's easier because that discredits the EP world, and I don't want to do that. But it is easier because most of the time these guys are not noticeable.
You make some excellent points, and with celebrity protection, we end up getting a black eye, but it's a black eye we give ourselves. So it takes a very specialized skill. The problem is, I think, is that sometimes protectors have a hard time communicating that to others. And so they go about it the wrong way because they think for marketing wise, for me to get the next opportunity, the next job, the next business, I've got to put this image out there. So what would you say to that?
Yeah, I think that image is BS right now. I mean, I think you could put up anything you want and put anything you want out there. And there's no spell checks. There's no fact checkers. I talked about this with my cousin. He's a veteran. He's, Purple Heart recipient. And we were having a cigar by the fire at his house in Tampa. We were just talking about, I was talking exactly what we're talking about, Elijah and Philip, about why this angers me, why people are just putting up smoke signals and getting jobs, and really they're not qualified, and there should be some kind of fact-checking system. And he was talking about stolen valor, and he said that there's websites that handle that for them. And I thought that's brilliant, and that needs to happen. And I feel like the same needs to happen in our industry. Would be great if we had fact checkers out there. And so when a guy's pushing out content or pushing his name out, really, did you really do that? Let's find out.
With corporate protection, they've got some layers. They've got an HR department. They've got people that, have some established business practices that know, okay, we need to like you said, to fact check this. We need to call these references, et cetera. On our end, because so many people are in the entertainment industry and maybe they're more creatives than they are, businessmen and women, what they'll do is they'll see a visual, like you said, this 15-second Instagram clip or, 5 or 6 Facebook photos of someone standing next to someone famous, and they'll go, yep, works for me.
Yeah.
So that does become a challenge for sure.
It's all BS, man. It's all smoke and mirrors. And I do feel like people need to do some more background checking on the EP side. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just today, I sometimes I get upset when like, oh, I need his bio. Hey, he's my guy. I'm telling you, he's good, right? But it can't be like that. I understand the upper brass wants to see who this is, and they're going to do some background checks on the EP side. And I've learned to appreciate that and not look at it like, why are you questioning me? More, it's like, yeah, let's show you who we got. Let's show you our cards. Where the CP world, I don't think that's happening.
I want to dig in to one other piece there, what you were talking about earlier, when you said, because you're so immersed with these celebrity clients and the challenges that are presented with them, and then you also work in a corporate environment, and to a degree that's easier. And I can relate to what you were saying, and I knew what you were getting at. But can I get you to, for the listeners to kind of expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely, Elijah. When I say easier, I don't mean it doesn't sound like what it sounds like. I'm not saying it's a piece of cake. That's why I prefaced it when I mentioned it. I want to say, and I think EP is difficult. It was difficult for me in the beginning, and I only got into EP about 4 years ago. I've been a CP guy my entire career, but I learned that there's so much similar though. There's so many similarities in EP and CP. EP is difficult too in its own way. You got to do. The way you dress, the way you speak, your soft skills need to improve. Whereas on the CP side, maybe your soft skills weren't so clean. You got to cover up your tattoos. You got to put lipstick on a pig. You got to do things. You got to do things a little more professionally. I'm not saying that CP is not professional, but you got to step it up on the EP side.
In the celebrity protection area, you get this kind of stress test. You get the plan changes and they've got to make an adjustment. And we thought the detail was going to run for 3 days. Now it's going to run for 3 weeks, so if the agent's personality can deal with that, when they shift over, they get an assignment in the corporate sector, it does feel less stressful because there's less spinning plates. And so for those that have the right temperament, they can really shine in that area because again, they've been kind of battle tested.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so I think that's a good way to put it. And you nailed it. I mean, but not knowing what tomorrow brings is what I've been doing my whole career with the EP thing. It's great because you have a detailed list on a roster of bullet sheets. You're going to pick up the vehicle here. You're going to go there. This is when they're going to go to church or they're going to go to school. You got it all lined up. When the CP world is just like you're a renegade and you just got to roll with the punches.
If I'm a close protection or executive protection colleague out there from the listenership, I'm thinking, how on earth could I start? So how do you get into it? Is there a concerted effort you can make, or are you just going to be plucked from the ranks of our community?
I can only speak for myself. It was a little bit of the right place at the right time for me. Growing up down here in South Florida, South Beach to Palm Beach, it's all club life is a big thing. So I was a bouncer in my young years. 18, 19, 20 years old bouncing. And they would take me from club to club and I would kind of clean up the club. If the club was bad, had a bad rep, I'd go there and I'd fix it. And then I'd go from club to club to club. And the next club would pay more and the next club would pay more. And that's how I worked. I had an artist come into town at one of the clubs that was a concert venue. And this artist was a very high risk guy. And he's been through a bunch of, it was a very tough crowd. You had the gang unit there. You had the helicopters. You had to close streets off. And that's the kind of element this artist brought. And I'm talking about 2003. I did the job. I executed. Our team executed perfectly in that club. I mean, we just kept the club very clean. And then the artist's manager, his road manager, was like, "Hey, I got to let you know this is the first venue we've been to in a long time where we've had zero problems. There's usually fights break out. This, that. Like I tell you, you got a good security team." And my boss, who was running the concert venue, pointed at me and he goes, "That's because of this guy." So then that's how my story started. So then the road manager's like, hey, we're shooting a music video down here in Miami. Could you help us out? And I was like, if it's cool with my boss, I'll go. So he's like, yeah, it's cool. So then I ended up going, and that parlayed into we're going on tour. And then we did a tour, and then that's how I started. So it was the right place at the right time, but it's not just that. It's everything, all my experience that led up to that point. And it comes from many years of working hard. And that's why every job I have, I try to be the best at it, because you never know who's looking. And anybody trying to get into the industry, I would give that advice. You know, whether you're protecting some rich guy that wants to take his girlfriend to South Beach for what, that doesn't matter. Treat everybody like they're high risk. Treat them all, with a knit glove, and work your ass off. And I think that's what's going to get you noticed sooner than later. I mean, that's my story.
So as your role as a business owner, just to kind of drill down a little bit, you're making decisions off of who you're going to bring on your company, who you're going to recommend on the detail, or just refer to somebody. Are you basing this off a skill or for something that you see in their character, and then you're saying, I can teach them the skill? It's character to me.
I mean, we've got almost 400 people here, and on the EP/CP side, there's only about 40 of us, and we keep that table, 37 to be exact. We keep that table very, very close to our chest. The seat at that table is a big deal. So, oftentimes I'll get asked by random people they want work, and I'm like, you got to start with our event division, work as an event security guard, work your way up, and it takes about a year and a half, 2 years for you to get really to the point to where we trust you here to go out and represent us and do well and with our clients' lives. But I can train them. If they've got what it takes, I can train them. And if I feel like they don't have the right character, I defer to my guys. What do you guys think about RJ? Oh, they'll tell me, I like the kid, he does drop everything and come, but he does do this, and we'll work on whatever he does wrong. And as a team, it takes a village to raise a child, right? So that's the kind of mentality that we have here.
Yeah, I think you nailed that. One of the things that I think people should do is identify where they want to be, more than just saying, hey, I want to be successful, or I want to make a lot of money. Say, in 5 years, I want to be doing this, and then take a realistic assessment and say, can I do this? I'm sure so many people look at you and they go, oh, I want to do what he's doing. And they don't think about the 2 decades you spent getting to that point. And, and so one of the challenges is that when they see someone who's, at the top of the game, operating well, working full time, they try and skip steps. And a lot of times, and I'm sure you know this, is that when you skip steps, you start making choices that you wouldn't normally make, and some of those are less than honorable choices. And and then you end up putting yourself in a position where people can't trust you, or you get a bad reputation, and then you're forced to take whatever job comes your way. So it's kind of this self-defeating cycle you put yourself in by trying to jump ahead.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. No shortcuts in life, right? And I agree with that totally. You are having a shortcut, which might end up in not only you ruining your reputation, but somebody getting killed. Sure. I feel like if I have any advice to give anybody getting in, it's exactly what you just said as well, Elijah. Don't skip steps. Don't take shortcuts. It's going to potentially ruin your career or get somebody hurt.
That was amazing, bro. I'm in agreement. So thank you, brother, man. I really appreciate you coming on.
Okay, so another great episode there from Anton, Elijah, and Pelham. And next up at number 3, we've got the Tactical Medic and their place in the CP team back from October last year. And this one is with Christian Zerkowitz. Do you remember this one, Elijah?
I do. One, because I really enjoyed the topic. I think, when we get into the area of like medic, is not as sexy in terms of our industry, but it's so needed, and it was important to kind of touch on a lot of those pieces that we did in the episode. And this is one of those where I wasn't on it, so I got to listen, like you just mentioned, from behind the scenes here, and I learned quite a bit as well.
Yeah, and Chris is so passionate about this subject. I mean, we've had him on a few events and workshops and so on. And it was essential that we got him on the podcast just to get somebody who knows the subject, but infuses so much passion for it as well. And his own story that brought him to becoming a tactical medic and to being such a big advocate of it. I mean, I think it's such a great story. And we're going to hear a little bit of that now. in this short clip from the episode.
Yeah, this one is definitely deserved to be on the list. So good stuff.
Yeah, let's hear from Chris.
Embedding a tactical paramedic, why it matters and why perhaps not enough teams take it seriously enough. We are very fortunate to be joined by Christian Zerkovitz, an embedded tactical paramedic at Amaranth Academy. What do you think is the problem as it stands in the industry with regards to tactical medicine?
I believe that today people think that tactical medicine is just a catchphrase, and people tend to take off the tactical part when going to study this type of medicine, and they go straight into the medicine because it's much easier to teach medicine to non-tacticians than it is to teach the tactical part. So we'll have a lot of people that believe that they're tactical medics, while in the end they are just medics, and this causes a problem when things actually go and hit the fan.
And what about you? Where does your passion for this skill set come from?
Somebody once asked me a question. He said, "Chris, if something goes bad, what can you do to help me?" And I said, "Well, I can rush you to a hospital and tell you to stop bleeding. And then, of course, I'm quick on the draw, so nothing will happen." And then this colleague of mine said, "Well, Chris, all of that is great, but I'm a tactical medic, and if you get shot in the ass, excuse my French, then, I will be able to help you right here, right now, while still keeping the bad guys away." And that started to make me think how I could be in the industry for, at that time, well over 10 years and not know anything about medicine. And I realized that I just had been very lucky, and I wanted to stop pushing my luck and become professional.
I see a lot of people on different teams, they have a big bag of carrying all sorts of fancy things, but they don't know how to use them. If you don't know how to use it, get it out, learn how to do the basics well, get the kit that you know how to use and make sure you can use it when that call comes.
Definitely. I mean, carrying a lot of kit is really good, but in the end, are you going to be able to use that kit in the setting that you're working in? And the paramedic is going to be reluctant to leave with a lot of kit because, well, they will say, "Well, I need all this to stabilize my patient," and he is absolutely right. But that is because a paramedic is working under the ideal conditions that are provided to him. This is also the reason why a paramedic will not go into a building that is burning. He will wait for the patients to get out. Now, as a tactical paramedic, of course, we will not make tactical mistakes and we will not do things to put our own lives at risk. However, we will be a better judge of how far we can go before our lives get into a risk. If you look at the tech protocol today that's being taught to everybody, anything that's medical needs to stay way outside in the cold zone or maybe the warm zone. But if I have bleeding patients and I have people pinned down, they need me there and then. Otherwise, I am going to be a coroner and not a paramedic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally agree. So do you think everyone within an EP team, CP team, they should all have tactical medical skills, or do you think that dilutes their primary purpose and CP role?
I believe that every executive protection agent should have the basics of tactical medicine, the basic TCCC skills. Something that the U.S. military, when they rolled out the TCCC program, said we need a program that we can teach to every soldier. Why? Well, because we cannot make everybody into paramedics. Not everybody needs to be a paramedic, but everybody needs the basics. Everybody needs to be able to keep the paramedic as far away as possible from the actual action, but keep them alive, keep the patients alive long enough for them to get them there. We need more medical knowledge within the teams, and professional teams, I believe, should invest in that, and not just a 5-yearly course. But if you go shooting every single day, why not add a medical drill into your in the end of your shooting class just as well? It'll take you 5 minutes, but it will keep your skills sharp.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with everything you've just said there. I mean, medical skills is one of the main skills that you suffer skill fade from if you're not practicing it, if you're not going through your drills and carrying out further training. And you see a lot of people, they'll do their course and the expiry date will be in 3 years' time. But if you don't do any, further on training during that, you're going to lose a lot of that. You don't lose the skill set, but it's not as fresh as what it would be if you're carrying out regular training. And are you seeing an emergence of tactical mental health medicine, where the tactical medic can provide guidance, advice to these guys who are maybe suffering from PTSD, or giving some advice post-incident to help them deal with trauma?
Well, what I have noticed is that fortunately things are changing a little bit, and having somebody who is considered very versatile in medicine on the team, people will trust that person more. So, you can have an EP team that everybody did their TCCC training, they went through the 3 days and everything is all good and peachy. But you have somebody that they call doc because, well, the guy, has done 6 weeks of study or 6 months of studying. And when something happens, so post-incident, if this person is open to it, he will at least recognize the signs of somebody needing help and needing support. And I believe it's a big role, because if you are a technical paramedic, then you have been running through these trainings with your guys, so you understand the alpha male dominance in our industry, and you understand that nobody wants to cry about what just happened, or nobody wants to talk about the fact that they peed themselves when they got shot at. However, because you ran through with them and they know that you have been there, done that, and you are the same kind of person, they will open up to you more. And that, I think, then as a medic in the team, it's going to be your responsibility to go and raise the flag when necessary.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I mean, any incident that happens, everyone deals with it differently, and it's not about being, the big man. I think everyone's got almost a tolerance of how many incidents how many close calls you can have before your luck starts running out, and you start, you're realizing you're pretty lucky to get through these things.
So, Chris, let's. This is fascinating, right? This is fascinating testimony from you both, and I think it really brings everything to life. Pardon the pun. But what I'd be interested in is just maybe in conclusion, what does the right skill set look like, and where can you attain it? Sure, we can increase people's medical skills, but what if they want to become a tactical medic within EP?
What we need. So, basic life support is not enough. Being a full paramedic for the whole team is too much. We need to be in between. And there is very nice courses, the TCCC course, ITLS, International Trauma Life Support, or PHCLS, Pre-Hospital Trauma Life Support. Courses like those will give more information to them, but not too much, because giving them too much information, giving them too much skill will lead to them wanting to become paramedics. And then the focus shifts off protection and goes to paramedicine, like it did with me. So we don't want that. We just want to give them enough in which they say, with this skill set, I am confident I can do good. But basically, we want the executive protection agent to be able to look at Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, executed by Leonardo DiCaprio, and understand it. But I don't want them to be able to read Shakespeare. Because if they can read Shakespeare, they will look too much into it and they will miskill. I will read Shakespeare. You just tell me what Leonardo just told Juliet, and then we'll be fine.
All right, so we're getting closer to that number one. This feels like the Christmas countdown for the top of the charts,
Let's go.
Yeah, okay, so in at number 2, this was the second most listened to podcast that we put out from last year.
Okay.
And bearing in mind that this came out only in October, and you might see a trend. We've actually got quite a few October podcasts in here. And this one, it's a big one.
Drum roll.
Industry standards and regulation with the one and only Richard H.
Okay.
Did you hear this one, Elijah?
No, I missed this one in person, but I got a chance to catch it, of course, when we got it ready for production. And I think if we're talking about topics that match up with with the interviewee, that would be Richard with this one, because the guy's opinionated, but he knows his stuff, and he'll tell you, he'll back up his thoughts. He'll deliver the facts. He'll give you his opinion, but he'll say, this is why I feel like this. And so I think that always makes for a really good guest on the show, because you can get a sense of, you can get a feel for them and their experiences, and he conveys it, over the airwaves.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't have described it better.
You probably could have described it better, but
No. But listen, a little tidbit here. There's another award that this podcast picks up. Have you any idea what that is?
Is this the longest one?
Something. Well, it's close. Okay. Very, very close,
okay.
Actually. I'm impressed with that. It's actually, we receive the longest answer to one of Pelham's quick-fire questions of all 50 podcasts.
Well, let me tell you, I have a feeling, I'm going to give you a little hint. I have a feeling on one of our early episodes of 2022 that we already have in the can here, we got that beat.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I don't know what the runtime is, but I'm pretty sure.
Okay. I love it because, in 2021, there was no competition.
Right.
So this has really got the stakes.
It's amazing when you can be your own competition. Huh?
Yeah. Okay. Well, without further ado, let's have a recap on this fantastic episode from Rich H and the team on industry standards and regulation.
Does the EP industry need more regulation or less regulation? We're here with Richard H. We're going to be looking at licensing. What do you think is sort of wrong with the current landscape? What problem do you think needs to be solved?
That question I could answer. How long have you got, really, basically, is the answer to that one. I could waffle on and bore you to tears for eternity. The industry as a whole, I think, in order to look at the future, you need to look at the past, specifically in the last 3 decades. In answering the question, is the industry in a better place now than what it was pre-SIA? The answer has to be yes, it is. And the answer is yes, because the 2 remits of the SIA, one was to remove the criminality of the industry, and the second was to raise standards. So in terms of answering your question, the industry is annoying to me. It actually gets me frustrated because there are various excuses now concerning the level of training. There's a certain level of acceptance that this is our lot in life. We have to deal with it and get on with it. Stop the negativity, stop whinging about the training, stop whinging about the standards out there. And yet, if we don't whinge, nothing will happen. So in terms of where we are with the industry, yes, we're in a better place, but is it actually fit for purpose? And the answer is no, it's not. And it's not fit for purpose because anyone can enter the industry. The training is poor, and there's no oversight. And so where is the industry left with? The industry is left with a watered down service that is, for the most part, unfit for purpose for the end user who is acquiring that service that may be serious.
Richard, the passion coming out in your voice, really frustrates you, the SIA, how it's all being rolled out. Just flipping back, what do you think's been positive? What have they done right? Have they done anything right that you think? You mentioned, I think, one positive was getting rid of the criminal element from many years ago. So that was a positive thing, bringing in licensing. But what else do you think the SIA has done right, if anything, in your eyes?
Nothing. They haven't done anything right. They all have slopey shoulders and say that that's not our remit, that's the responsibility of the employer.
Yeah, so they're allowing licensing to take place at the minimum standard, and then they're passing the buck to the employer.
Absolutely. So SIA, why isn't there a driving license required? You're basically telling me that a school leaver without a driving license, who is half blind, half deaf, who gets out of breath walking up a couple of flights of stairs, can attend a 2-week course and provide service, serious service, to an end user who actually may have a serious threat to life. When you actually look at other countries, whether you agree with the SIA level or not, and you look at other countries, let's take the US, for example. So making a comparison between the SIA and the US, there's almost an argument of saying there is no comparison. The SIA are up here, the US are down here. And that's basically because the SIA is a government body. The US doesn't have one. There's nothing at federal level that imposes a set of standards. Some states don't even recognize close protection. Some states say all you need is a concealed carry weapons permit. Some states actually impose, I think it is Vegas, I may be incorrect, impose a minimum standard of a personal protection specialist, I think they call it. But I think we're talking 2 states out of the over 50 states that have a set of standards that you need to pass. But those standards are still very low. What's the private sector do about that in the United States? Well, I mean, this whole discussion thing that the industry on a global scale now is fantastic. People are talking about close protection. People are talking about how to raise standards out there. But for me, it's what is the end result of this? Talk. It's talk. Yes, there are seminars, there are courses and so on and all the rest of it. But there's nothing that imposes a bottom line standard.
When I joined the industry, it mattered what your background was, and it mattered what course you'd done. You know, people looked at you at the provider you trained with, and you got a bit of kudos because you'd invested in yourself and you'd went to this provider to do that course. And I think that's been lost now with the rollout of the SIA and the license requirement, because now
absolutely
it's just a tick box for a lot of people entering the industry.
So it's unfortunate that you can have people that will actually go out their way and look for that best training possible and spend longer on the training, spend more of their hard-earned money on the training, and end up with exactly the same license as someone else. The whole thing is dare I say, it's the whole thing is shrouded in a smoke and mirrors effect, where you have training providers and operational companies providing a service, a training or operational service, done under the banner of we provide the highest standards. We go above and beyond the SIA. We know what you need. We can provide it. In reality, that's far from the truth. Companies will say we've got strategic partners. In reality, they don't. What is an end user, a client, actually receiving on the ground? And when someone says, oh, I've got 10 years experience in close protection, what exactly does that experience involve? I can be following someone. I can be following someone around. I can be sat in vehicles, sat in hotel lobbies for 10 years. Is that experience? Is that really experience of close protection? No, it's not. Anyone can follow someone around. Anyone can be sat in a car or a hotel lobby. But it's actually what you're doing with your head. What are you actually looking out for? Are you being proactive in your threat and risk mitigation? Is the client actually receiving a service he thinks he has bought from a company? Going back to your question, Pelham, we are digressing slightly. Yes, there are huge positives taken from the industry. The industry has increased for the better over the years. Without a doubt, it has. But let's not forget, what was the start point? The start point was so low. You're talking about courses in garages at the bottom of the garden. To now, you have a license process. You have a somewhat vetted process in terms of criminality. You have a proper regulated and licensed industry. You have an imposed set of standards for a course. And you have an industry where more knowledge about the service is now present than it was decades ago. But should we actually stay there? Should we actually say, wow, pat ourselves on the back, we've done a great job? No.
Okay, let me start with this. I don't know what the number one spot is. So
Nope,
this is going
we
to be a
don't know.
surprise to me as well. Okay. So I just
Yep.
I just want to key up the audience, let them know we're getting this revealed at the exact same time. It's like the Grammys, you know, when you go to the award shows and you open up the envelope, but the presenter learns this at the exact same time as the audience. Now let's go.
It's true. This is going to be live for effect. So listen, I'm going to try to tease this out of you, though. I'm going to make you work for this. So first of all, I'm going to give you a clue, and that is it's one of the podcasts that you co-interviewed on.
I don't know if that narrows it down, though, bro.
Well, it does narrow it down. That's the whole thing. It's just
All right. yeah, not by much. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's can I get a gender? Is it the male or female guest?
No, I'm not going to tell you that right yet. However, what I will tell you is that this is an early podcast. It came back in March.
No, bro.
So,
I'm drawing a blank. I mean, I can't remember what happened last week.
Okay, when this podcast came out, within its first week, it shot to the top of listener favorites, and it's remained there since. So all the way from March of last year through to today, it is still the number one most listened to listeners' favorite podcast.
So two things. One, that's amazing. And two, I'm drawing a mental blank because I see these lists. You know, I know what our subscriber listening ratio is in terms of our charts, but I can't remember exactly which one this is. So I think that kind of speaks more to me and my lack of room in my brain and its hard drive than anything else. So I'm excited, man. You got me waiting. Let's drop it.
Yeah. And you know, I take my hat off to you because I did offer to tell you this before we went live with the recording, but you wanted to do this live. Okay, this is one of our female guests. Does that help? You were on it. You spoke to her. You asked her questions. It was the one and only Miranda Capolse on behavioral analysis and human trafficking.
Nice.
Remember now?
Sure. It's a great episode. Yeah. I mean, I interviewed a few female guests, so I was, you know, I didn't want to just jump right out and say it was her, but that was a great episode. Again, another practitioner that really knows her craft well. She's very articulate. She can explain the things. You know, again, it was just a really good episode, and she's a wonderful individual. Like, just our interactions and stuff have been great. She's been a wonderful supporter of the podcast and the circuit in general. So I'm really happy she made the number one spot, the pole position.
And what do you think it is about this podcast that made it so popular with the listeners?
Again, I just think she did a great job of conveying the subject. One, I think the topic too was a little bit underserved. So I think it was prime just to be talking about something like that. You know, when people think about the protection industry, they're just thinking about guns and drop kicks. And I do think, patting ourselves on the back, that the Circuit Podcast does a wonderful job of exploring the wider realms of protection and the different nooks and crannies that you can find yourself in the industry. And with Miranda, she operates in a segment that's very valuable, but maybe a little underserviced, doesn't get as much exposure. And she did a great job of kind of bringing that part to life. To life? Both are appropriate.
Yeah, she definitely shone light on it, and she put a lot of life into it. That's for sure. I mean, I really enjoyed.
Bro, that's why we got you, man.
I really enjoyed this one, and you know, I think I even said this. I actually think I got the intro to do on this one, and I remember at the time listening to this interview and thinking, you know, how amazing it is that, you know, we're putting this podcast together, you know, for the listeners, but also for ourselves. I mean, like, this is so self-serving, but I took so much away from this.
No, bro, this is what I was trying to convey, and sometimes I don't have the right words to say it, which is weird because I'm, you know, hosting a podcast. But one of the greatest things that I love about the Circuit Podcast is the guests that we have on are guests that I would want to listen to, that
Yeah.
I would want to just sit back in the car or be at the gym on the treadmill, hit the play button. And so, to your point, even though it's unfortunate because of our operational schedules, we miss the recording sometime, it's still fun to play catch up and be, just a fly on the wall.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, should we let the listeners hear it? The number one most listened to podcast of 2021 of season 1 of the Circuit podcast, Miranda Capolce, Behavioral Analysis and Human Trafficking.
Good stuff.
Behavioral analysis and the executive protection professional of tomorrow. What a big topic, but what an important topic. We're going to be joined by Miranda Capolce, Director, MC Global Consultants, big friend of the industry, excellent speaker. You've probably seen her on many, many stages as a keynote, giving us an insight into not just human behavior, but its applicability to the security industry. So, Miranda, behavioral analysis, what is your biggest gripe with the industry as it stands?
As it stands, I believe that it's really a necessary need for the industry right now, especially because the world is so evolving and so much also online evolving that we are almost confused in what is emotion and what is not, what is the right behavior and what is not. All the cultures almost getting mixed up in the online world. And we now see although not this year traveling, but with all the travel and all the cultures that we experience and all the different groups of people, that it's really time to understand their way of thinking. We don't live in our little villages anymore. We have to go out, and especially in this industry of security. And as Elijah knows, with EP and CP, you travel with your clients, you come in, you step into the lives of different families, and you just have to know who they are, how they think, what they feel, and what is normal, observable behavior.
One of the reasons why I think this topic is so fascinating is because in our industry, sometimes the mindset is we're here to kind of clean up the mess. But in theory, if we understood the motivations about why people do a thing, that helps us prevent that. I can already tell that you're approaching it from like a mindset of let's figure out why a person is doing a thing, and that gives us some extra tools. Do I have that right?
Yes, absolutely. I really believe, because people make it look like rocket science, and I want to show you guys it's all not that complicated. We all, who we are all humans. We all have the same kind of brain. It just works a little bit different sometimes because of our upbringing and our, culture that we came from. But in essence, we can all understand it if we just want to, if we just listen.
So when we're talking about detecting specific behavioral anomalies and trying to figure out why a person does a thing, are you saying that's something that anyone can learn?
Anyone can learn the basics. Anyone can learn to understand the basics. Just stand still for a minute and just ask, what is really the problem here? Is there a problem here? And what do I need to do if a problem occurs here? Just look around, ask yourself questions. And why is a certain person behaving a certain way? Is it normal that they do it that way? Learn to look at yourself. So when you feel like you're getting stressed, at that point, really just take a breath and think with yourself and about yourself. What am I doing here? What am I for? Usually when you're under stress, you immediately react. That's neurologically, that's how we are, but you can learn to just step back for a little bit, especially, for instance, a lot of people have those triggers. It's just a little snap with reality. And that normally we all, need that, but sometimes we don't. And that's because we are just wired that way when we need it.
You also work in the human trafficking space, or at least you support charities and initiatives. What parallels and lessons can be drawn between the two sectors?
So it's all about questioning if you see something that seems normal, because we were all on the train, and yes, sometimes somebody has to go to the toilet on the train. But if that behavior seems off, always listen to your gut feeling. Take a breath, look around you. Where's that person coming from? How is he or she coming out? Usually, unfortunately, it's still the he. But also the victims in human trafficking. How can you recognize a person? Because a victim is not walking around with a sign, "Help me, I'm a victim." But they have certain personality traits, like they don't dare to look up or to other people. They are kind of nervous, or they're really quiet. They're sitting by themselves, or they are watching at a certain person all the time while that person is not standing with them, but on the other side, for instance, at the gate at an airport. If you just learn about just normal human behavior, really, what is normal human behavior? We all, in essence, know that, and we all, in essence, know a little bit about what's off. And if you don't know that, you can ask and learn about that. You never know what the intention of the person is. So always, that's why I always teach people, be curious, ask yourself questions.
So I think you've written about this virtual DNA. You talk about your footprint. Virtual DNA. It sounds like a cool or scary term, depends how you look at it. Can you tell us a bit about what that is?
That is really every click you do on your computer, wherever you are, on whatever website online, you leave a trace. And there are companies that are following that trace, and they are buying the information also. They're sort of brokers almost that collect information and sell it. So from everyone, no one accepted, there is an erroneous profile online. So there is another you. It's not you, but it's the digital you. It's what you do online. And it doesn't mean it is you, because that's the same as when you talk about something. All of a sudden you see ads popping up on Facebook, and you're like, that's a coincidence. I just recently spoke to someone about this. And that is your DNA footsteps, really, that you make. And that, although it's not totally you, there are companies that really want that stuff and targeting it.
And
same
criminals.
With especially criminals, yes.
So if I'm already doing coast protection work and maybe I work full time, or I'm looking at transitioning, how is it what you do and what you teach, does that help someone's skill set?
Well, for instance, if we stay to your profession, how do you, if you do an advanced, you already want to know, for instance, at a hotel, who do you get cooperating when your client and you arrive and something happens? Who opens the back door? Who has a certain room for you available? So you try to recognize the right people for your project. So the little tricks that you can learn, because usually if you don't train them, and if you hear them one time, you just go back to your old default setting. And once you're under stress and you have to arrange things, you go back to what you know. But if you repeat things and learn things, you make new neural pathways and it becomes easy.
I agree. We might think we know something, but we're looking at it through our own lens as opposed to the environment or the culture that we're in.
Yes, it's always good to learn a little bit about the country that you're going through and what is their normal daily routine of those people. What are they doing? What is the way they communicate with each other? So especially in EP, when you just start traveling, really educate yourself, watch some movies, watch some documentaries, ask people in your surroundings. I always say, create that steady group of peers that you can consult. Just ask.
Just ask. I love it. It's so simple, yet why aren't we doing it? It's certainly a really important topic.
It's also because a lot of people don't dare to ask, right? It's some people think they should know it all. I think that's also a barrier we need to break. We cannot be all-knowing. And that's okay.
And that's why, and that's why we invite people like you onto the podcast, so that we can know a bit more. Well, Miranda, it's been a pleasure. I know you're very active on the BBA Connect app. Thank you for that support. and you're very active in the whole community. So it's nice to bring the pages of all of that to life. So from Elijah and myself, thank you very much for joining us.
You're so welcome. It was so fun.
All right, so there we have it. That's the #1 most listened to podcast and your top 5 of 2021. I hope you enjoyed the recap, Elijah.
Well, I definitely enjoyed it. I hope the listeners did too. But I'm also really interested in, particularly for the longtime listeners, if their lists matched our list. And if not, you know, I would dig it if they kind of messaged us. They can use the NABA Protector app or the BBA Connect app. Let us know, or find us on the socials and say, hey, your list is BS compared to my list.
Yeah.
My favorite episode was such and such. I know if I had to speak personally, I would say my favorite episodes are just the ones that you appear on, John, just so you know.
Yeah. No, I knew that. Cut.
I left you speechless. I love that.
The outtakes, right? We probably could have put out a longer outtake episode.
Oh, that would be hilarious. I think that's what we should do for sure.
Yeah.
But I think the great thing is, though, we had a really good 2021 in terms of listener engagement, but we definitely have plans to do much more in 2022. We've got some great guests already lined up. We've got some episodes in the can, and we've got some big plans. So I hope everybody sticks around and joins us for season 2 of the Circuit Podcast.
Yeah, tell us what you want to hear. Tell us who you want to get on as guests. You know, we'll do our best. I'm really looking forward to it.
All the time.
More John, definitely.
Good stuff, man.
All right, it's a wrap.
You have been listening to the Circuit Magazine podcast. Be sure to subscribe and be sure to not miss an episode.